History of the kitchen, there are many love stories, but none quite as poignant or powerful as that of salty and sweet. Consider the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or prosciutto wrapped melon, or chocolate covered pretzels, or perhaps feta cheese and fruit, or honey roasted peanuts. As is true of human relationships, however, this particular culinary compatibility reflects a deeper, more complex chemistry, a genuine gustatory gestalt, if you will. Now, consider these rather bland chocolate-coated marshmallow cookies. Oh, excuse me, sir, madam, would you care to try out a cookie?
No, thanks.
Oh.
Are they free?
On the house.
Sweet.
So, what do you think?
I don't know. They're okay, I guess.
I don't know. They're okay, I guess. Follow me. As we'll soon see, salt has the ability to alter the way our sensory apparatus perceive flavor, heightening and intensifying the sweetness and more subtle flavors that might be surrounding it, like the roasty nuttiness of the cookie base, or the fruity coffee overtones of the chocolate, or the marshmallow-ness of the marshmallows. A once plain and common cookie is about to become goodies. A little heat to just barely melt the top of the chocolate. Nothing too extreme. Go. And a dusting of kosher salt. Let's see how this hits it. Now, give these a try.
Are they still free?
Not only are they still free, they're fat-free.
Ooh.
Yeah?
Wow, amazing flavor.
I love that crunch.
They're awesome. How much?
How much? Don't worry, friends. Awesomeness is free. Not to mention. As we just witnessed, salt and sugar complete each other in that oh so special way that most of us never find. But the truth of the matter is the magic is not equally distributed. Sure, sugar is sweet, but the salt, well, it's the salt that provides the molecular mojo. Don't believe me? Well, let's consider what happens when an interloping flavor bursts onto the scene, say bitterness. Now, bitterness is typically a marker for alkaloids, including, paradoxically, many poisons and medications. Excuse me, who exactly might you be?
Mary Puffins, sir, at your service. I understand you have some nasty-tasting medicine to take.
Indeed I do, and I was just about to explain that just a spoonful...
A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down?
No, that salt is chemically better suited to the job.
That's a pie crust promise. Easily made, easily broken.
Well, we'll see, won't we? Care for some dessert? Yeah, I'm right there with you. You can call it fruit all day long, but it doesn't change the fact that any fruit flavors therein are typically overpowered by naringin, a powerful antioxidant, which can be good medicine if you can get past its intense bitterness. Go ahead, madam. Apply your cure.
Don't worry, my dears. A spoonful of sugar will help that medicine go down.
Yeah, sure it will. Okay, dig in.
Isn't that better?
No, it isn't any better. Now it just tastes like sugar poured on top of a bunch of medicine. Look, here's the deal. Tongue.
I beg your pardon, sir.
Oh, come on, do it for the kids. Tongue.
Very well.
Sweetness and bitterness are both sensed by the same type of apparatus. That is, membrane-embedded protein receptors located on taste cells. Sweetness goes through one of these chemicals, while bitterness goes through another. If they both pass through their respective doors at the same time, your brain senses them both. You could, perhaps, overwhelm the bitterness of that grapefruit with sugar, but it would take a lot more than a spoonful, that's for sure.
Well, I never said how big the spoon was now, did I?
Indeed not. Now, let's try a little experiment, shall we?
Why do you always complicate things that are really quite simple?
It's what I do. Well, let's say for a moment that you had yourself two nice, juicy, ruby red or pink grapefruits, kind of like this. And let's say that you cut them in half and put each half in a bowl, like this. Now, to facilitate easy eating, we need to separate the juicy segments from their fibrous confinement. Yes, you could employ a grapefruit knife or a spoon if you've got money to burn and Unitasker storage space to spare. Me, I'll go with a sharp-tipped, serrated knife. Simply move down each side of every segment from the center out towards the pith. Take your time. There. Now, here we have 2 tablespoons of coarse sugar,
A spoonful of sugar will help that grapefruit go down.
Would you stop that? I mean, not only is it wrong, it's probably copyrighted. Just go over there. As I was saying, this is coarse sugar, which can be obtained via the internet or any decent baking goods emporium. Now, you can get by with regular sugar, but this is better. I like the melting characteristic of this. Now, the reason that she's wrong in this case is that we are actually going to burn or brulee this stuff, creating even more bitterness, but in a good way. Now, when you're melting sugar like this, evenness is key, so keep the flame constantly moving or you'll end up with nasty burns. Right, so much for the brulee part of the program. Now, before the sugar has a chance to cool and set, sprinkle on 3/4 of a teaspoon of coarse sea salt. Okay, now even though we burned the sugar, creating even more bitterness, well, let's taste.
Crunchy. Tastes sweet and sour and not the least bit bitter.
Not the least bit bitter, okay? Tell me, little Missy Puffin stuff, how do you explain that?
I would like to make one thing quite clear. I never explain anything.
Well, if I copped that attitude, I wouldn't have my own show on TV, now would I? I tell you, this is what it's all about. Tongue.
Well, now...
Tongue. When salt hits your saliva, which of course is technically a salt solution, the sodium and the chloride break apart. Sodium is an ion, meaning that it either has one extra electron or is lacking one electron. Anyway, ions can cross into taste receptor cells directly through amazing protein structures called ion channels, which are present on all the taste receptors, regardless of whether they are designed to bond with sweet, bitter, or umami, if you believe that even exists. It's pretty complicated neurobiological stuff. Let it suffice to say that when it comes to getting into your taste buds, sodium does not have to wait in line. But wait, kids, there's more. For some reason that still has the lab coat set scratching their oh-so-smart noggins, sodium actively blocks bitterness, preventing it from fully accessing the taste system. And while sodium can block bitterness, on the other hand, it seems also capable not only of bringing its own flavor to the party, but of boosting other flavors that might be ordinarily buried under bitterness. Now, some sensory scientists say that sodium may actually turn up the volume on flavors by electrically increasing the input of the flavors at the tongue or by altering the way the brain perceives them. Chefs, on the other hand, will simply insist that salt doesn't make things taste salty, it makes them taste good. And that includes sweets. In fact, I never make dessert without adding a little bit of salt. What do you have to say to that? Oh, do close your mouth, Mary. We are not a codfish. Best line from the movie, don't you think?
I'll get you, my pretty. And your little dog, too.
I never made that connection before. Let's move on to another application where salt greatly enhances the flavor and texture of a classic confection, and one that has certainly garnered its share of populist PR these last few years. Ugh. Invented by the French sometime after fire, but before the airplane, the caramel, whose name derives from an ancient Greek word for straw, or hay, it's a color thing, has been married to salt for at least 400 years, though you would think it was a brand new concept from the buzz the combo's been getting around the U.S., where it is not unusual to pay a couple of bucks for just one of these tasty little boogers, and that is reason enough to make them at home. Now, caramels are amorphous candies like brittles or toffees or taffies, but there's an extra challenge here because just as with our grapefruit, the sugar is going to be cooked to a very bitter state, burned in fact, and in our case, salt will be added at a couple of points along the way to balance the bitterness by bringing more complex compounds into the flavor foreground. It all starts, like most good magic tricks, with a piece of paper, parchment paper. This is a standard 16 by 11.5 sheet, and you're going to need a ruler for this. Now, fold over the long ends thusly so that there is a 2.5-inch overlap, all right? And then fold. Turn the paper 90 degrees and fold the new ends inward so that there is a 1.5 inch gap in between them, okay? And then just fold everything down nice and neat. There, it's easy. Now, unfold the paper and turn it so that the long sides are this way, and make 4 cuts outward on the corners. There, there, and there. Okay, just keep going with me here. Fold all of the flaps upward. There, so that the whole kit and caboodle will fit nice and pretty into an 8x8 baking pan. Look at this. Just look at that. It's perfect. Is it any wonder that once a year I get up at 4 a.m. to wait for a call from the Nobel Prize Committee? Oh well, let's cook. Place a heavy 4-quart saucepan on the stovetop and combine 14.5 ounces of sugar with 1/2 cup each of water and light corn syrup, finishing it off with a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Turn the heat to medium-high and stir off and on to dissolve that sugar. Now, by the time it reaches a simmer, most of the sugar will be dissolved. Clamp on the lid thusly and set your timer for 5 minutes. As the sugar dissolves and the water starts to boil away, the sucrose molecules, composed of a single glucose molecule bound to a single fructose molecule, begin to tightly mingle, a habit which tends to lead to the formation of big crusty crystals, which is bad. Cream of tartar or tartaric acid can hinder crystallization by snipping the bond holding the disaccharide together. Adding corn syrup further floods the party with other sugars capable of hindering any inconvenient hookups. Now that there is no more danger of crystallization, remove the lid and add your trusty handy thermometer. And I can tell by the way the bubbles are stacking up, we are over 220 degrees already. Now, drop the heat to medium and maintain a boil without stirring or touching in any way for 6 to 7 minutes, or until the syrup is golden in color and just approaching 300 degrees. Then you can give the pan a couple of swirls to make sure there are no hot pockets in there that could maybe burn our solution. Turn the heat off and set your timer for 2 minutes. Now, at this point, the temperature is going to be coasting up past 350 degrees, and the high heat is actually breaking down, melting the glucose and fructose, forming dozens, if not hundreds, of new flavor compounds. By the time we hit 360, the syrup will be dark brown and almost smoking. Time to put out the fire, so to speak. All right, standing by, we have 1 cup of heavy cream, a good bit of fat in there. That is going to help our caramels be nice and soft and chewy. We're going to lace that with 2 teaspoons of soy sauce. Now, of course, that is mostly water, but the second major ingredient is salt, which we will use to mitigate some bitterness. And, of course, there are meaty flavors there that will bring some complexity to the party. So pour it in all at once and stand back. There will be a bit of thermal drama. Go ahead and as soon as the steam is clear, add your 1 stick, 8 tablespoons, 4 ounces of butter. Traditionally, confectioners have always stirred with wood implements. Wood is, of course, a natural insulator, and the thought was that that'll prevent pulling heat away from the syrup, thus causing crystallization. The truth is, it just protects your fingers. Now, when the butter's melted, return the heat to medium-low to medium, reapply the thermometer, and cook till the syrup returns to 255 degrees. Then, carefully pour into the prepared pan, and notice it's up on a cooling rack for better ventilation. Just give the pan a few taps so that the air bubbles will float to the surface and pop. Now, let this cool for 30 minutes. Then, we apply the finishing salt. Lights. Now, finishing salt is any salt designed to go onto food at the last possible moment so that it may be experienced in its crystalline form. The difference between a finishing salt and, say, the salt they sprinkle on your biggie fries before chucking them out the drive-thru window at you is that finishing salts are meant to be enjoyed for their flavor, for their texture, and also for how they look. Finishing salts are kind of like edible bling. if you will. Now, kosher salt, which comes in large irregular flakes, can certainly be used to finish, as we saw with our little cookie hack at the beginning of the show. A lot of chefs like to use coarse sea salts because they are irregular, crunchy, and indeed flavorful. They can also bring other non-salty flavors to the party, as well as, well, out of the ordinary colors. Let us take a tour, shall we? Beginning with India. Kala Namak, or Indian black salt, contains a lot of sulfur. Tastes like eggs, in fact. Cyprus flake salt, very dramatic looking, but surprisingly mild in flavor. Sel de Gris, or gray salt, is a non-refined salt harvested by hand raking. Hawaiian red contains alea clay, which adds a nice mineral bite. Danish smoked sea salt is made from seawater boiled over fires fed with elm, beech, and juniper branches. And then there's good old-fashioned San Francisco Bay coarse sea salt. I should also note that there are a few mined finishing salts, like these pink salts. This one from high in the Himalayas. This one is from Peru, and this one comes from Utah. The choice is, of course, yours. Me, I think I'm going to stick with the San Francisco Bay coarse salt. Lights! Time to salt the caramels. 1 teaspoon of our coarse sea salt should do the trick. And it'll look like it's just going to bounce off, but believe me, give it a few minutes and it will stick. Matter of fact, go ahead and let it cool for another 3.5 hours. All right, time to depan the goodness. I like to do this with a ruler and a pizza roller because I want to get this down into 1-inch pieces. It's going to be sticky and it's going to be messy, so you want to work quickly. I just kind of roll the ruler across to get uniform grid lines in both directions. There. Now, you could use a knife, you could use scissors. I definitely am a fan of the pizza roller. But first, give it a little spray with non-stick and go to town, working as quickly as you can and strokes as long as you can to keep it from binding. One direction, then the other direction. Then you're going to have to break it apart with your fingers, which is going to take some time. And if your fingers get messy and warm, everything will melt. So just dip them in ice water to chill them down. Now, take a 4x4-inch piece of parchment paper or wax paper and roll thusly. Try to keep things nice and square. But don't worry, when you twist, odds are the caramel is going to misshape a bit, and that's all right. Just kind of grab and wind on one end and repeat on the other. That's it.
Salty sweetness, possibly a little minimum, only knowing which other flavors emerge. Flavors would likely be buried under bitterness, well, not for the chemical help of the ions running through those iron channels. See how Plain-Sing taste has been elevated to good eats. Of course, the salt added to sweetness also works. We add sugar to saltiness to create the most unlikely of confections. Follow me, won't you? Set your hot box to 400 degrees. Make sure you've got a rack in the middle, and grab yourself a sheet pan and a cooling rack, which is also a baking rack now that I think about it. Now, fetch forth from the chill chest 1 pound of thick-cut bacon. You heard what I said. Just line it down the pan. Take your time now. Don't hurry. Nice. Bake your bacon for 30 to 35 minutes or until it is almost perfectly done. Keyword, almost. Meanwhile, bring your food processor or mini prep, if you have one, up on deck and spin 1.5 ounces of pecan halves with 2.5 ounces of light brown sugar. That's about 6 tablespoons. Just pulse until it looks kind of like graham cracker crumbs, like that. Perfect. Now extract the bacon
almost done, which is just right. Now place on a nice stable surface. Remember, this is still hot. I'll spread on the sugar nut mixture. Just get as much even coverage as you can. Take your time. There. When you're done, pat it down lightly. Don't pack, just give it a pat. Now back into the oven. Bake for another 10 minutes or until nice and crispy. Allow me to present praline bacon, which I must say goes just as well on top of your evening ice cream as your morning eggs. Heck, it's perfect any time of day. I certainly hope that we've inspired you to attempt a bit of culinary alchemy of your own by bringing salty and sweet together on a dessert plate near you. I mean, who knows? Once you've given a grapefruit brulee or salty caramels a try, you might start rimming your chocolate milk glass with salt or sprinkling a little Hawaiian red on the frosting of your next birthday cake. And as for these little marshmallow critters for Easter, well, let me tell you, that ain't sugar crust on those guys. No siree. Salty sweets. The possibilities are as endless as they are delicious. See you next time on Good Eats.